Okay, so this is my feedback about this draft diagram for the Research Advisory Groups, or the RAG. I've shrunk it here just to get the whole in, but for most of this feedback I'll make it larger. So it might be helpful if you have the diagram alongside this video as well to understand what I'm talking about. My first impression is that it's not really clear as a flowchart as to where it actually starts, and two things I think would make it far more understandable and navigatable. And the first one would be to have a starting point. The second point would be to include some numbers in order to see where the flowchart progresses. So, for example, I'm thinking this is probably the start. So I'm imagining that somewhere around here there might be a number 1. In other words, to lead the member of staff, because I'm imagining it's for a member of staff to be aware of what's the process in order to get a potential grant from the first stage, which is really thinking about it, right through to completion down here. So that's the first thing. If I then zoom in, so I've zoomed in now, and I'll just change the colour of the pen. I think somewhere around here it talks about it being a member of staff, but my feeling is at this initial conceptualization stage there maybe needs to be, it's almost as if the diagram needs some ideas as to where ideas and inspiration for grants might come from. So to me the diagram might look better if it had arrows like this pointing inwards with places that the inspiration might come to, which then leads to an idea. So rather than staff, I'm wondering if that box, staff, wants to be initial prototype or initial suggestion, initial idea for a bid. Now, one of those sources of inspiration, of course, is Peter himself. So it might well be that this box, which at the moment is Peter's box, actually is moved up and becomes one of these inputs. So following through with the logic of what I've been saying, this box here I think would be number 2. So a member of staff has an idea, that's number 1, or is presented with an idea for a bid, for a possible grant, and it goes to the faculty and it goes to the faculty research office for recording. The rest of this then seems to fall into line, because I think the real process then starts with this member of staff pushing forwards the bid with the support of the research office, faculty office, and the relevant person. So I think at this stage, which would be number 3, you'd be looking for support of the relevant person. By making this hierarchical, in other words, by putting it below, it does give the impression that that stage leads to the next. And I think really somehow this needs reorganising so that it indicates that these people, the ones I'm highlighting here, Jill or Roz or Ray Kirtley, are there to support that member of staff according to which of these bids or what type of bid it is. So I think they want to be moved somewhere sideways so it doesn't appear to be the member of staff passes it on to them and then leaves it, because of course it's really the member of staff, the PI, who drives this entire process. So then we're down really to stage 4. I think my next issue is really down at stage 4, which is the meat of any application. This is this section here that I'm highlighting is really the work that's going to go into making this bid a reality. If you like, I've just shaded it in there. And this is the hardest part. The problem I've got, as it stands, is that it's very linear, so it gives the impression that we would hold a meeting, decide whether to submit it or not, and then a project team is here, is assigned to work with there's the project team, I guess in project 1 or project 2, with the PI in developing the bid up. Of course, in reality, all of this stage happens, almost all of this happens kind of simultaneously, and very often it's not possible to wait to hold a meeting for any of these members when you're trying to put a bid together with a tight timescale. So I think just a bit of thought needs to go into there as to what's the timescales here, because there is no indication how long might be acceptable or expected between applying and actually getting the grant into its final stage. My only other point to note would be a lot of these acronyms really need some legend at some point in the document. I'm sure that's the intention, but some legend to indicate what they mean, because otherwise it's going to be unintelligible to anybody looking at this who hasn't been involved so far. So I think those would be my suggestions as to how we might clarify it. Definitely some numbers would help in terms of stages, some thinking about whether these stages are in a logical place, and the overall question as to how do you expedite a bid, ensure that it meets the target date, which are often not very long, and build all this level of accountability and checking in without impeding the development of the bid itself. I hope that's helpful.